Good morning, homesteaders. I wanted to show you something today that not a lot of people show, and I wanted to be completely honest with you. It's not something you see often, and I will explain. Let's go. So here in the garden, there are no beautiful vegetables growing right now. There are no beautiful leafy greens. There are no plants that are producing food for our family except for two, and I'll talk about those in a minute. And everything else is devastated. This is real, and this is how a lot of gardens look. Now, it's been 100 degrees in Texas, in this part of Texas, for I think a month now, and we haven't had any rain in over a month and a half, I believe it is. That's no excuse because certain gardens can withstand that. However, when you're on a homestead and you get involved in a lot of other projects, and that's not an excuse either, and time ticks away and you've got things with your family, then the garden often suffers. And the point of me telling you this is so that you do not get discouraged. Well, let's look to see what's going on. Let's start with our cucumbers first. They were completely decimated by squash bugs, as were our beautiful Italian cucuzza squash. You can see that they're not only overrun by weeds, but the squash bugs are just even on the fruit, which normally doesn't happen. They're usually on the leaves and the vines. This entire area next to the cucuzza squash were Hopi gray squash, butternut squash, and pumpkins. You can see I've already laid the silage tarp back over it to kill the weeds off, because that's the only thing that was growing here, because the squash bugs destroyed everything. Now I know I'm going to get a few comments saying, well, why didn't you spray poison on them? Kill them bugs off. Well, I don't do that in my garden. I have a completely organic garden. I use organic sprays, and I've done videos on those before, but sometimes when the infestation is so bad, those just don't work. And I'll link that video at the top of the screen here. And the reason those organic sprays don't work is because the soil is not good enough yet to sustain a completely healthy plant that the bugs won't bother. We add our own compost here, we add mushroom dirt, we add a lot of different things to the soil, but it isn't the best yet. One of the few things that does not care and is not getting attacked by anything are these southern peas or runner beans. And as you can see behind me, they are still flowering out. This area is still doing okay, although there's a lot of weeds in here. I have sweet potatoes in the ground here and also sunchokes in the background. I usually don't have much that attacks these, and they do not mind the hot summer. Look at this complete devastation here. This was a strawberry patch. They need a ton of water when it is this hot. I have managed to keep a few plants here alive, but not many. This other strawberry patch is doing better, but you can see, here's reality. I've got a ton of this type of weed in here, and the roots on this go extremely deep. So this forest that you see behind me was my garlic bed, and behind it is my asparagus. Now the asparagus is still okay, but the forest growing up through it is wild lettuce. I was leaving the wild lettuce to be able to do a video for you on the healing benefits of wild lettuce. And that time got away from me, and the entire garden grew up in wild lettuce. And at this stage here, when it's seeding out, you can't really use it. Some of these stalks are about 10 feet tall, and I need to get them out of here. This pile of grasses in the middle was in these two beds over here. Soil likes to be covered, and it likes to stay covered all the time. So whatever is going to cover the soil is going to cover it. Whether it's your food plants or weeds, something is going to be there, something has to be there covering it. Also mulch. So if you mulch it, you're not going to get as much weeds. Mulch it with leaves or mulch it with something else, maybe wood chips, and that will help. I'm over here in the part of the orchard that normally has a lot of fruit. And as you can see, there are little green figs on these fig trees. However, they should at this time of year be producing a lot of beautiful big ripe figs. And this is my biggest fig bush. I do it in the bush style, and it just does not look good. It's dropping a lot of leaves. I'm watering it as much as I can, but it's just not doing anything. This Adriatic back here never produced a fig. This is a Celeste. I don't see any figs on it. Our apricot and apple, no fruit, and also our jujube. Usually this jujube is loaded full of fruit. It's got fruit on it and they're quite tasty. And these don't mind drought at all. However, the amount of fruit that's on here is a lot less than any other year. This is one of our black Spanish grapes behind us, and it usually produces well, and we got hit really hard with black spot. So on each of the grapes, it developed a little black spot, and that's I think it's a fungus. And we sprayed it with copper, and we saved about a third of our grape harvest off of these two that we have. There's one down there, right there. But not enough to make anything significant. So we had a good gallon of juice that we got, but that's really about it. This jujube is doing just fine, but again, it's got less fruit on it. These are our muscadines and they're doing okay, but again, we've got about a third of the amount of fruit that we normally do. And usually we get a second fruit set out on each shoot. And I see that in a few places, but it's nowhere near what it has been in the past. Oh, they're still really sweet though, and I don't know how they do that. It's really amazing. So things in the greenhouse are a little bit better. They're a little bit more controlled, and we've got the shade cloth on it, which helps out a lot. We've got some tomatoes, and we've got flowering and fruiting going on the tomatoes with no problem, although we have got hornworms. We need to get those off. We are letting a few carrots go to seed, so I'm not rehabbing this bed right now. I'm waiting for those seeds to develop. Our planter boxes with our herbs are doing perfectly fine, and we've even got this moringa right here, which of course loves the heat. It's tropical. Oddly enough, as much as I water it, the banana is struggling. So I'm not sure what the deal is with that, but you can see we've got peppers here. We've got a lot of peppers and eggplants. However, hornworms also attack eggplants. So we've got an issue with hornworms beating up on our eggplants, and we're trying to control them the best we can. And then we've got all of our little citrus down here. You can see we've got a bunch of limes on this little lime tree here. A few other things hanging on, and actually these are volunteers that came up in our cucumbers. These are Chinese long beans, and they seem to be doing just fine. We've got one Swiss chard left in the background. The others died, and I do not know why, because usually Swiss chard is very good at handling whatever you throw at it. And then this is Malabar spinach, or if you're Filipino, it's called alagbati. And it is a summer type of spinach. It's got that slimy characteristic like an okra, which we don't have of any this year, but it does not mind the heat. It's more of a tropical plant, and it's just rocking and rolling right now in this hot summer. And just more honesty, we've got a couple of tomatoes here left, but all the rest are dead. I didn't get the shade cloth up, and for some reason this year, the grasses are really bad in the garden. We went on vacation, I didn't get to them in time, got other projects going on, and the grasses overran these tomatoes, and no shade, they're gone pretty much. So I just wanted to be honest. I wanted to show you, things that I didn't put on my Instagram. Yeah, when I pick things and they're beautiful, I'll put them on there. But that's not what is happening almost all the time here in the garden. But I want to encourage you to not give up. And I want to encourage you too to not just look at the pretty fruit that you do see and to understand that that's not how it is most of the time. And I gotta be honest with you, when it's 103 and 104 out here, I'm stopping work at about 10 o'clock in the morning and not usually getting to the garden. And that might be a mistake at this point because food shortages are on the rise and they are coming in even harder in a lot of places. And this is probably the most important place that I need to be, and not doing new solar projects or new chicken coop projects or anything like that. Those get the better of me sometimes, and I want to have all that infrastructure on the property. But this infrastructure I can eat and will sustain my life. The other ones won't. So I need to also sometimes reprioritize. So I want you to do the best that you can and continually try to reprioritize what you are doing. Again, just don't give up. Now go click on this video right here, which shows you how we shade our tomatoes when we do shade them and how effective it is. Have a beautiful, blessed day. We'll see you next time. Bye.